touched on the creative latents of the teeming youths of the state in the first of the Katsina National Talent Hunt Challenge was a welcome development. The competition, which is an initiative of His Excellency, Right Honorable Aminu Bello Masari, the Executive Governor of Katsina State, is to further harness the endless possibilities that the heritage of the Katsina represents while using same to constructively engage the youths. The public unveiling of the talent hunt attracted the various stakeholders involved in the project, from top government functionaries to partners, sponsors and resource persons drawn from the relevant sectors of the society. The state is indeed poised to showcase the positive creativity of its youth as opposed to the negative energy demonstrated by some other youth in other parts of the country.
It is my honor and privilege to welcome all of you to this historic occasion. I wish to congratulate His Excellency the Governor of Katsina State, Right Honorable Aminu Bello Masari, for his foresight and commitment towards initiating this noble idea.
The two guest speakers in their presentations, as well as the other guests in their various goodwill messages, challenged the youth to seize the golden opportunity provided by the competition.
I strongly believe that this is what the Katsina Talent Hunt, the Design Challenge, is all about. It is an oft-touted cliche that if a nation invests in its youth, all it is doing is securing an enviable future for itself.
I'm very honored to have the opportunity to support this Katsina National Talent Hunt Challenge. With this, it shows its administration's commitment and its readiness to give the youth of Katsina all the needed support to allow them to develop their talents and making more valuable contribution to the state and the country in general.
I have a company that I call Innovation and Entrepreneurship. I pledge to give training to identified 500 persons from the talent hunt. I will do that by mentoring them and giving them opportunities on how to package themselves to become business or a business concern.
Not just about the talent. We need to think beyond the talent, because when we look at our situation here in Katsina, we have to be realistic that not everybody can and should be able to go online. That doesn't mean that we should eliminate them from this opportunity to show their talent.
We have an established auto service center in Abuja, created solely by me in 2011. And we are providing services of automobile sales and services. We have a office and staff strength of about 50 people. Most of them are from Katsina.
A step-by-step insight into idea and process of participation was also provided to aid all participants.
Mine is simply to give you an overview of the whole concept, what it takes, why the initiative, who is the initiator, what do we intend to achieve, how do we participate, what is the proposed impact that this particular challenge is going to bring to Katsina State and to humanity.
The presence of the executive governor himself at the unveiling underscores the importance of this historic challenge.
Ministry of Education, the state government introduced the qualifying examinations, where only those that passed are sponsored for West African examination, NECO, NEPTIP, Empires, etc. The Katsina State National Talent Hunt is designed to introduce measures that will bring together the best candidates not only from Katsina State but from across the country.
The Katsina National Challenge is open to Katsina State citizens, Nigerians and foreigners between the age of 12 to 40 years, with all entries to be submitted online at KatsinaNationalTalentHuntChallenge.org from the 28th of November to the 22nd of January 2021. The eventual award and unveiling of winners will follow a rigorous selection process by the jury of the competition. Be inspired by monuments in Katsina State.
Marriage is a blessed union between two people and by extension their families. And here at NTA, one of our own veterans celebrated the marriage of her son. Here at NTA, we are one big family, so when you have an event, we have to come to celebrate with you. Here is a look at Uche and Okwa's wedding.
The journey of holy matrimony for Uche Odedo and Okwa Eta began like a fairy tale, with the coming together of both families in a colorful traditional ceremony.
You're welcome. Oh,
The event, which was attended by prominent family members and other invited guests, was a showpiece of the coming together of two rich cultures from the south and the southeastern part of the country. With the necessary traditional marriage rites completed, all roads led to the National Christian Center for the solemnization of their holy matrimony, to the joy and admiration of all.
Take thee, Okwa Eta,
to be my wedded husband,
to be my wedded husband,
to have and to hold, from this day forward. I now pronounce that they are husband and wife in the name of God the Father, in the name of God the Son, and in the name of God the Holy Spirit.
With the exchange of marital vows and exhortation by the officiating ministers, guests and well-wishers were heralded into the beautiful adorned pavilion of the International Conference Center, the venue of the reception. The visibly elated couple could not hide their joy as they serenade the audience with superb dance skills. Prayers, advice and goodwill messages poured in for the couple amidst feasting and merriment.
And to send you off into uncharted waters. But you can survive it in spite of the sharks in the waters. Once you stay focused in the institution and you go back to the manual for its operation, that holy word will make meaning to your marriage if it becomes the anchor of your home.
The joy of the parents knew no bound as the entire event symbolized a glorious ending to a challenging year 2020.
You should hold on to God, because that is the secret of marriage. God is the secret of marriage, no matter what you are.
Today is my day of joy. As you can see, I'm bubbling. I thank God for today, the day that I've lived to see my last born getting married. He has been my handbag, my baby. So it's a thing of joy for me to witness his day.
A year ago, my wife was called to glory. While we were planning for Dick's wedding together, Belly brought this day to pass. And so we are particularly delighted that it has been consummated in a very glorious and spectacular way.
For Okwa Etta, the last son of Mrs. Immaculata Etta, a former Deputy Director Programs with NTA International, the event was a dream come true.
Uche is a nice and caring woman. She's very humble and she's very smart. I'm happy that we are finally there and we can just continue and basically begin the journey of our lives together.
For Mrs. Uche Odedo Etta, the latest bride in town, her joy knew no bound.
I'm just grateful to God that the day finally came and it was a huge success.
Here is wishing the couple a blissful marital
I'd like to end today's program by saying a huge thank you to every single soldier who is out there fighting for every single Nigerian. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We thank you and God bless you. God bless Nigeria. And of course, we have to thank our health care workers who have been taking care of us through the pandemic. So please and please make sure you wear your masks. Practice social distancing. Wash your hands regularly and use your hand sanitizers when you can't wash your hands. Please, let's take care of ourselves. Let's celebrate our families as a pandemic allows. Find our hidden talent and of course, always tune into Window on Abuja. This is the end of the program. I hope you had a wonderful time with me. As always, I am Maimuna Ummi Ibrahim.
NTA Parliament is a dedicated 24-hour channel that broadcasts the activities of the Nigerian Senate, Federal House of Representatives, and all the 36 state houses of assembly. NTA Parliament, strengthening Nigeria's democracy.
Lights, camera, action. Pictures are created in accordance with the creative vision of the photographer. The ability of a photographer to express perceptions and emotions in order to convey an impression connotes the art of photography. Most photographic works show aesthetic qualities. Some create an illusion, while some abstract photos may paint a deeper meaning from the ordinary. All this depicts the creativity of this artistry. In the early decades of the 19th century, photography captured more detail and information than the traditional methods of replication, like painting and sculpture. Today, photography still remains a unique art form that demands creative thinking from the photographer. We all love taking pictures, but there's a whole lot that goes into making our pictures look flawless. In this artistry, every detail counts.
I'd usually like to start with one light and then improve my lighting style up to the point when I get the kind of picture I want to shoot. So I'll start with this. This is always called the main light, and I'm going to start the main light on camera right. Okay, fine. So the next thing I need to do now is to position her. I like to sit down, look towards this light. You can put one foot up, one foot down, make yourself relax. Come to the edge of the stool. Good. Fine. Are you relaxed enough? All right, so just smile and let's see how this goes. Fantastic. So with every shot I take, I begin to readjust my camera till I achieve what I want to see. So right now, there's too much lighting coming on her face. So I'm going to have to work on my lighting style and try it again. And, well, it looks much better this time around. This is one light setup. And when I took the first light, there was so much light, I had to adjust my settings. And she looks more like this now.
New technological trends in digital photography have opened a new direction in full-spectrum photography, where careful filtering choices across the ultraviolet lead to new artistic visions. This art entails careful staging and lighting of the picture.
I'm going to make it very simple, so I'm going to just add one more light, and then I'm done. This light I'm adding is called a hair light or a rim light. It allows the picture to have a form. And so I can see her in a beautiful place. Beautiful. You see the picture has changed again. You notice there's a rim light now that has created a form. When you look at the first one, it was bare. And the second one has some form of rim between it. And then from here we go into post-production and print. This is the picture, and it comes in two formats. It comes as a JPEG, which is a camera processed option, and it comes as a raw version, which is the original version with the camera shot the picture. So I'm going to edit this in raw right now. So I start with this. Good, so the picture is out now, and I start to work on it. Luckily, she has a very fresh face, which is an advantage. So I may not do as much. I just have to work on the color of her dress, her lips, make her hair look beautiful. Go to paint her up in lights and shadows now. I'm putting a bit of darkness to her face.
The stages of photograph has evolved over the years. In amateur processing, the film is removed from the camera and wound onto a reel in a dark room. But technology has taken a new dimension in this artistry.
Technology has overtaken all of that now. Makes it easier for a lot of people, makes it more accessible for a lot of people. Back in the days, they had a few labs that...
National Young Farmer Scheme crucial to job creation and food sufficiency.
A minister comes to make a proposal. it is mandatory that that minister must include the number of jobs that will be generated.
FRSC to step up enforcement on use of speed limiting devices.
And Nigeria records new COVID-19 infections.
On Good Morning Nigeria today, we shall discuss ASU strike and bridging the academic deficit.
After what seemed like eternity, particularly for tertiary school students as well as their parents and guardians, the Academic Staff Union of Universities last week announced a conditional suspension of its 9-month-old strike to press home its demand for university lecturers to be removed from the Integrated Payroll and Personnel Information System, IPPIS, among other things.
It was a prolonged face-off this time around between the federal government and ASU, as both sides refused to blink for a time long enough to carry, the pregnancy. And also long enough to carry the pregnancy and enough for an academic session. And like the saying goes, when two elephants fight, the grass suffers.
Indeed, Nadabo, in this case, the students make up the grass and have been at the receiving end of the ASU federal government face-off. Now, this is not the first time ASU will embark on a long industrial action. If you recall, in 1988, ASU declared a nationwide strike that lasted for about 21 months and several others down memory lane. But to say the least, industrial actions by university lecturers have become insistent and a nagging issue in our national life.
Of course, you're quite nagging indeed, especially when you consider the fact that children and relations of both sides, that is ASU and the federal government, are also affected by such strike actions, which have created academic backlog for students and the university system in general over the decades.
Now, while the terms of a 2009 agreement between the federal government and ASU have always been a bone of contention, this time around funding for the revitalization of universities, earned allowances of ASU members, the shortfall in salaries, visitation panel for universities, and the use of the University Transparency and Accountability Solution UTAS were among issues on the negotiation table.
And the federal government, on its part, has promised not to renege on the consensus already reached during negotiations. But ASU has already indicated it will go back to the trenches if there is any breach on the agreements.
Well, insistent strikes have really dealt a blow to the psyche of the average Nigerian student in public tertiary institutions who is not certain of graduation day owing to prolonged industrial action. And going by ASU's recent suspension of its 9-month-old strike, is it yet uhuru for students? What are the issues on the table? How will the academic backlog be cleared and the lost ground recovered?
Now, we shall seek answers to these questions and more in the course of today's edition of Good Morning Nigeria. My name is Yusuf Nadabu Usman, welcoming you to the program, reaching you live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority, the NTA, from the nation's capital, that is Abuja.
And I am Juma Yusuf, joining Nadabo to welcome you to the last Monday edition of Good Morning Nigeria in the year 2020. Indeed, the year has been quite challenging, but thanks be to God who has brought us this far. We shall bring you other complimentary segments in the course of the program. But first, let's begin with the highlights of the news with Ayodeji Makinde, the latest father in town. How does it feel like being a nursing father, Ayodeji? You should be on paternity leave, actually.
It's actually challenging, but very, very interesting. Good morning, Jumaya Nadabu. Here is the morning news. The presidency has reaffirmed that the recently launched National Young Farmer Scheme, an initiative of National Agricultural Land Development Authority by President Muhammadu Buhari to engage 1,000 youth in each of the 774 local government areas in agriculture, has the capacity to create jobs, ensure food sufficiency, and maintain the sector's position as the largest contributor to the nation's gross domestic product. Special Advisor to the President on Media and Publicity, Femi Adesina, disclosed this while on a working visit to Abeokuta.
Job creation is central to the heart of this government. Each time we hold a Federal Executive Council meeting and a minister comes to make a proposal, it is mandatory that minister must include the number of jobs that will be generated. Agriculture, you have the Young Farmer Scheme that has been introduced, you have the Anchor Borrowers Program, you have many policies that have been introduced that will yield jobs.
Following a careful review of the first phase of the end of the year special patrol by personnel of the FRSC, the Corps Marshal Boboye Oyeyemi expresses deep concerns over the overspeed-related crashes recorded within the period and directs commanding officers to step up enforcement of the law on use of speed-limiting devices. In a statement, the Corps Marshal expressed satisfaction with the conduct of most drivers and the performance of the personnel in containing the rate of fatalities within the period of Christmas celebration, despite massive public enlightenment by the Corps on the menace of speed-induced crashes. The situation is yet unabated. To this end, the Corps Marshal has directed officers to step up enforcement of regulations on use of speed-limiting device in the second phase of the special operations and first quarter of next year to drastically force down the growing trend of speed-induced crashes. The 72-hour closure of the third mainland bridge in Lagos did not present the overwhelming gridlock envisaged. However, some residents are still finding it difficult to navigate the city as the bridge is an easy gateway for movement between the island and mainland axis of the city.
I will need to stretch myself down to Ido to connect back to third mainland bridge, and it will cost me a lot of fuel. If I'm flying it from this way to Iyanoworo now, you know the cost of the fuel. It should not be more than 5-10 minutes, but now I'll be spending like 30 minutes to connect to Iyanoworo.
I think the most important thing is that it's being repaired. If this is not repaired and the bridge collapse one day, we're all in trouble. If I take care now, it's probably going to take me a faster time to get to where I'm going compared to any other day. So I have no issue with it. Additional 10 minutes, I'm back to where I'm going.
This year's Yuletide in Port Harcourt and environs is devoid of the usual field queues that characterize festive seasons in the past. Notwithstanding the availability of the product, commercial transporters are, however, exploiting members of the public who embarked on travel to their countrysides to mark the 2020 festivities.
It's fine that the government has tried, there is no queue, but as an oil producing nation, we want to buy fuel cheaper, not because there is no queue, the fuel should be high.
Everything is moving fine now because the other time you feel to buy fuel, there will be embarrassment and such, all such of that, but now everything is okay.
I feel good, but it's still expensive. I drive car every day, nothing come out. See, I just bought fuel before, I'm buying again.
Moving on now, 140 youth in Lagos State have been equipped with relevant skills on transforming waste to wealth for financial empowerment. This training was championed by the United States Consulate.
All these things have been dumping around, they're actually money.
Keep our environments clean by cleaning our gutters and taking off the waste from those areas.
Some people are complaining that they don't have jobs, but with the waste that you generate in your house, you can also feed yourself.
Upcycling, you're actually telling people that you want them to creatively reuse their waste materials into functional products of high environmental value.
We need to empower our youths, not just to seek employment, but for them to be self-employed and at the end of the day also be employers of labor.
838 new COVID-19 infections have been recorded in Nigeria within the past 24 hours. The Nigeria Center for Disease Control, NCDC, says the new infections were discovered in 16 states and the Federal Capital Territory, bringing the total number of confirmed COVID-19 cases in Nigeria to 84,414. Among the new cases, FCT recorded 297, Lagos 253, Plateau 82, Kaduna 57, Katsina 32, Nasarawa 31, Kano 25, Gombe 24, Oyo and Rivers States 8 cases, Zamfara 7, Ogun, Bauchi and Edo States recorded 4 cases each, while Anambra and Sokoto has 1 case apiece. Active cases nationwide have increased to 12,126, while total cases discharged are 71,034. Sadly, the death toll has also risen to 1,254. And that's the morning news. The program continues with Nadabo and Jumai, but first, we need to go for a break.
A scorecard like no other. Government has put in place measures and initiatives principally targeted at youths, women, and the most vulnerable groups in our society. These included broad plan to lift 100 million Nigerians out of poverty in the next 10 years, the creation of 75 billion Naira National Youth Investment Fund to provide opportunities for the youths, and the Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises Survival Fund, through which government is A. Paying 3-month salaries of the staff of 100,000 micro, small and medium enterprises. B. Paying for the registration of 250,000 businesses at the Corporate Affairs Commission. C. Giving a grant of 30,000 Naira to 100,000 artisans and guaranteeing market for the product of traders. These are in addition to many other initiatives such as farmer money, trader money, market money, N-Power, N-Tech, and N-Agro. These and more in spite of a recession and a global pandemic. Although social media as a channel of communication is inherently harmless, it becomes harmful and damaging when used without discretion and thoughtfulness. Bad social media users spread rumors and fake news without verification. But good social media users stop, reflect, and verify information before sharing it. Be a good social media user. Stop the spread of fake news. Verify the authenticity of your source and use social media responsibly for a better Nigeria. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, in collaboration with the National Orientation Agency. The Council of Our Fathers.
My advice to these young people is please do not take us back to those harrowing days. You probably do not know what it is.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.
Life can be very eventful. We curiously expect things to happen, even when we don't know what. Our human nature makes us like and repost lots of information. Some are unverified, inciting anger and hate. Sometimes innocently, other times the urge to break it first. This, in most cases, has caused destruction in many nations.
Close-Up Everfresh. Wait, what's new? It now has triple fresh formula that cleans, protects, and cools. Thanks to a combination of 1. Purifying gel, 2. Antibacterial formula, 3. Ice cool crystals that cleans deeply, fights up to 99% of bacteria, and intensely cools to keep you protected and fresh long after brushing. Close-Up Triple Fresh formula cleans, protects, and cools.
Guess what?
What?
I scored a hat trick today.
Cool!
Wow!
And how did you celebrate?
Just do your hands like this.
And hold your nose like this?
Body odor is caused by germs. That's why you need the new improved Dettol Cool Soap, which protects against 99.9% odor-causing germs with an extra burst of menthol freshness. Dettol, be 100% sure.
You're watching Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA. Let's now join our correspondent Chimobi Walter Naji for some business news.
Stakeholders have advocated an increased participation of women in meaningful economic activities of the country as a way of attaining financial stability and strengthening the nation's economy. They were speaking against the backdrop of the research carried out by the World Bank on the participation rate of women in economic activities. They noted that women contribute greatly to nation building and development, hence the need to empower them financially.
The research says participation in economic activity. We have a stereotype in this part of the world. We think that jobs are what government provides, and then you go there and you get paid and you go home. That was ages ago. Nowadays, employment is what you generate, what you create for yourself. So women in particular have a lot to contribute in the economy. The participation rates that the World Bank has been speaking about are actually in economic participation, not necessarily in politics.
With business news, Chimobi Walter Naji.
Many thanks, Chimobi, for the business package. Next on the program is newspaper review.
Well, Bayo Atrebi is already in the studio here for the review of the papers this morning. Bayo, good morning, welcome.
Thank you. Compliments of the season.
Thank you.
Good morning, Jume.
Good morning, Bayo.
Good morning, Nigeria. Compliments of the season.
Hope you had a restful weekend.
Yes, I did. Thank you.
Let's start with the Punch newspaper and see what is therein for the public or the reading public. Above the masthead, we have the story boldly written, COVID-19, oil price volatility threatening economic recovery. That's coming from the LCCI. And you get that story on page 24. Right underneath it, lawyers gave 9.4 billion naira bribes to judges in 3 years from the ICPC. And 14 insurers to pay 9.7 billion naira for #EndSARS right claims. Details on page 7 of the Punch newspaper. And on page 10, Oshomole can't subvert people's will through judiciary, says Shuaibu. The main story in the Punch newspaper is about the doctors, 20 doctors' death. And that is Nigerian Medical Association submits proposal to federal government January 6 prevention and training. You get the details on page 2. And the riders here are travelers from UK, US, worsening coronavirus cases according to the NMA president. And the second rider is 22 FCT coronavirus patients on oxygen in critical condition, that is, says UATH. Below down there we have 3 or 4 stories, one of which is Tinubu, nobody can pay me for my opinion, says Bakari. Details on page 7. Bandits kidnap Niger local government chair's parents, 15 others on page 7. Airlines will pay $3,500 per passenger for COVID-19 guidelines violation, according to the NCAA, that is. That's details of this on page 24. The pictures here, the main pictures is about the, Boko Haram invasion of Borno communities, looted shops and burnt churches. These are, not good stories or good pictures to look at, really, but it's really a sad event. Jumai?
Quite sad. One of my friends there said they raided the place from 5 p.m. to 4 a.m.
5 p.m.
to 4 a.m.
Almost 12 hours.
Yes. And
That's
it continued. Very sad. And the Daily Trust newspaper has, as its headlines, National Assembly spends billions of naira on constitution review. With rider, lawmakers justify endless exercise. It is needless, says lawyers and CSOs. And above the masthead, we see how below the masthead, we see how oil glut, deregulation, unstable petrol prices shaped 2020. You find details on page 15. Gunmen killed 2, kidnapped 48 in Katsina village. That details on page 6. Niger Republic poll, partial results expected today. You find details on page 27. And the picture story you see there, against social distancing, protocol of COVID-19, Abuja passengers queue to buy tickets at the Rigasa train station, Kaduna, yesterday. You can see the queue of human bodies there waiting for the ticket and throwing caution to the wind. Kidnappers kill, bury abducted Niger village head. You find details on page 4. Lawan backs Igbo traditional title. He preaches unity. You find the details on page 4. Abducted PFN chairman, wife regained freedom. Find the story on page 7. Housing pressure puts Kano physical planning rules to test. You find that on page 18. Bayo, quite a sad event over the weekend in Borno.
Yes, the crisis, usually, in any time there is going to be a season, either Christmas, New Year, or Salah, the tendency is for the insurgents to try and make headlines by trying to invade society, any closest community. And it started with Garkida, when they attacked Garkida just a few days before Christmas. So, it's very sad.
It's getting quite alarming.
Yes.
Across the north, it's getting quite alarming. Right?
Talking about the season, the Catholic Pontiff Pope Francis has called for peace and reconciliation in nations of the world, and especially calling on global leaders to make COVID-19 vaccines available to the world. He says in his Xmas message that in a world of ecological and social crisis compounded by COVID-19, we need to acknowledge one another as brothers and sisters. He urged global cooperation in making COVID-19 vaccine accessible to poorer nations. In his Xmas message, the Catholic Archbishop of Sokoto, Matthew Hassan Kuka, had alleged nepotism of the Buhari administration, adding, if a non-northern Muslim had done a fraction, there would have been a coup. The Minister of Information is quick to react to this, and he says that religious leaders have a responsibility to speak truth to power. But in doing so, they must refrain from stoking the embers of hatred and disunity. Such trust must not come wrapped in anger, hatred, disunity, and religious disharmony. He observed that it will be particularly graceless and impious to use the Christmas period, a season of peace, to stoke embers of hatred, disunity, sectarianism, and disharmony. In another development, Northern Christian Forum, in a statement by Reverend Josiah Nabut, admonished Archbishop Kukah to avoid using the pulpit for political gains. He says, Dr. Nabut says, Kukah's claim against Buhari are rehashed from certain political oracles the Archbishop visits. He observed that the Archbishop is shifting from the purpose of serving the laity and has become a tool in the hands of politicians. President Muhammadu Buhari has condoled the family of Senator Saidu Kumo, who died early yesterday morning. While praying for the repose of his soul, the president said the history of the victory of 2019 election cannot be written without the enormous political goodwill of the late Senator Saidu Kumo in the efforts of the APC to retain power. The Senator Saidu Kumo died early Sunday morning after 5 days illness in hospital. The senator represented the Gombe Central in the National Assembly during one term. He serves as a member of several committees, including Deputy Chairman of Senate Services Committee. In later years, he became the secretary of the All Nigeria People's Party, which then controlled the states of Borno, Yobe, Gombe, and Kano. He contested to be governor in 2011. He holds the traditional title of Garukua Gombe. The 3 days prayer is expected to be held in Gombe tomorrow. This report you read about bribes, it is a survey conducted by the Independent Corrupt Practices Commission.
ICPC, yeah.
Yes, and they said that between 2018 and 2020, the bribes that judges got from lawyers allegedly handling electoral and political crisis amounted to about 9.4 billion. It's also said that this was followed in the survey that revealed that the private business sector also ranks second when it comes to contributing to the national level of corruption. There is also a third level. It says the third level is the executive and the legislative sector also had their respective scores. In monetary terms, the executive had a score of about 33, while the legislature had a score of about 27. This was a survey that was conducted by the ICPC across.
But Bayo, when you look at this critically, you find out that 9.4 billion naira bribes, to judges in 3 years only, and that's coming from the ICPC. It's an investigative body that is.
Yes.
That is supposed to really go through these things, get them, and that's why they got them. Which means the IPC's table is now filled with so many cases to handle in just 3 years.
Yes.
And when you move away from that into the executive and the legislature and the business sector, it's just beyond numbers now.
The worrying thing there is that grants, bribe, is undermining our electoral processes in the sense that rather than people winning election from the ballot box, it is being transmitted to the courts, and willingly or unwittingly, lawyers, as is alleged by the ICPC, are instrumental to inducing judges in the courts. COVID-19. Here is the alarm bell still ringing.
Very loud.
Yes. On the eve of Christmas, we had 1,041 cases. On Christmas Day, we had 712 cases. Yesterday, we had 829. By this morning, 839. So far, our cases in the nation has reached 84,414. Presently, we have 12,126 of our compatriots who are in various treatment centers looking for treatment. Between yesterday and today, we lost about 7 persons to COVID-19. And what does this mean? The Nigerian Medical Association has raised an alarm that they have lost 20 doctors across the nation.
That's in 1 week, right?
Yes, in 1 week.
In 1 week.
And so the doctors are calling for critical measures, and they say that they want personal protective equipment to be provided, and they want proper training for prevention to be meted onto medical personnel, doctors and nurses. In the same vein, the president of the Nigerian Association of Nigerian Nurses and Midwives has also called for a ban on the flight from countries like United Kingdom and USA, especially countries where there is a new strain of COVID-19. And Abdul Rafiu Adiniji is his name, and he says that we need to reactivate the treatment centers in the form of diagnosis, and anybody who is coming into the country must be at least quarantined and treated as a patient for the period of 14 days to avoid the dangers of having this strain coming into our country. Meanwhile, the university
already?
Yes, University of Abuja is also raising alarm. They have in bed now 86 patients, and 22 of them are in critical position on oxygen support. That tells you the level at which we have to be very careful. In the FCT, the task force was around and they are praising the level of compliance. They said that for the churches they visited during Christmas, they are satisfied with the level of compliance, and on Friday they will be going to the mosques. But in Ogun State, Bishop Tunde Akinsanya has appealed to Governor of Ogun State to please allow crossover and New Year Day rallies because it is affecting them. Apparently, Ogun State, incidentally, was the first incubation period of the COVID-19 before Lagos took over.
I can't wrap it around my head why people think COVID-19 doesn't exist. How is that possible?
It's worrying.
When you see people dying?
It's worrying. Incidentally, the Minister for Women Affairs, Dame Pauline Talent, has also tested positive. How did she discover it? She was testing members of her family and herself because some persons she suspected were asymptomatic had come closer to her. And there you are, she tested positive. If she was not vigilant enough, she could probably have infected her family. She's now in isolation. What that means is that COVID-19 is real. It is not only for the big men or big women. It is for everybody. And once you abandon your guard, you can easily become a victim.
I know they show for face just like HIV.
You see, my worry generally is, you know, the travelers that are coming in from UK and the US. Some countries have already banned traveling and travelers from UK, and others are still on that. But it seems as if we're still taking that lightly and given the upsurge and the spike in the numbers of coronavirus cases. I think authorities concerned should look at that very critically and then see what measures to take. And even with the opening of the borders too, which some people are saying that may not be really as serious as the airspace, but generally, it's really becoming worrisome, especially the airspace being opened up to now.
Yes, the Presidential Task Force is giving a serious thought because they say that there's no sense in rushing to ban flights from United Kingdom or USA or other countries. If you do that, the tendency is that you'll find people flying into Togo, Lomé, Niger, and then they'll still find their way in. So they are taking their time to find measures to make sure that they plug all the necessary loopholes.
Okay, Mr. Bayo, thank you so much for your input this morning as usual.
Thank you.
Compliments of the season. We'll take a break now. When we return, our conversation will begin.
The counsel of our fathers.
I will urge and advise our younger generation to use talent and brain to sort out problems, not arms.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.
In my house, we may look alike, but we are very different individuals. My adorable twins, they look so alike, but they don't like wearing the same things. And my little man, I had to find out the hard way because I've been trying to teach him my way. He loves to learn his own way because doing things his way is more fulfilling. Everybody believes their way is best. That's why Golden Penny Pasta is our favorite meal because due to its non-stickiness, it allows me to satisfy everybody just the way they want it.
Golden Penny Pasta, made with durum wheat, is tasty, nutritious, is plus of protein and fiber, and non-sticky, so you can cook, serve, and eat your pasta just the way you like it. Go on and enjoy your Golden Penny pasta the way you want it. With Golden Penny pasta, your way is best.
Nigerian youths are about the greatest assets the country has at the moment. It is therefore not surprising that the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari is strategically responding to the yearnings of the youth through multiple projects and programs. Youth Entrepreneurship Support Years by Bank of Industry, the Youth Investment Fund by the CBN, and several other conditional cash transfer programs. Recruitment of 774,000 social workers, majority of whom are youths, and so many other projects that are beneficial to youths directly or indirectly. If the administration can do all this, definitely with a degree of patience and time, it can achieve more. Nigerian youths must come together to say no to terrorism, no to vandalism, and no to all disruptive tendencies. Hashtag Youth for Greater Nigeria. Pacifying the youths, unifying the nation.
These days, people get their news and information from more media sources than ever before. Some of the news and information given are fake, unverified, doctored, and manufactured to create confusion, stir disaffection, and cause disunity. Before you believe or share any news, ask yourself, is this real? Is it from a credible source? Is it verified or verifiable? Fake news is dangerous, whether you do it for fun or for political gains. Real people can get hurt. Fake news, don't create it, don't spread it.
This is a public service announcement from NTA.
Do you know that 35% of every girl child and women are raped on daily basis? Some are killed in the process, some take their lives in shame, others remain emotionally dead for life. It is sad. This culture is not ours, definitely not African. How did we allow bad culture to infiltrate and take over? Even if you lack fear for the law, what of fear of God? And you, why do you cover up rape acts when it happens? Remember, a problem shared is a problem half solved. Never cover any rape act because a rapist is a murderer. It could be you or your loved ones next. Women must be treated like the prize gem they are. Say no to rape.
Guess what?
What?
I scored a hat trick today.
Cool!
Wow!
And how did you celebrate?
Just do your hands like this.
And hold your nose like this?
Body odor is caused by germs. That's why you need the new improved Dettol Cool Soap, which protects against 99.9% odor-causing germs with an extra burst of menthol freshness. Dettol, be 100% sure.
A new edition of TV Guide is out with special focus on the game changer, His Excellency Governor Abdullahi Sule of Nasarawa State. Broadcasting in a digital economy, Maxwell Logo gives an insight. This edition also features Nancy Naji of AIT, a name synonymous with business. Meet the NCDC boss, Dr. Chikwe Ihekweazu. TV Guide, your indispensable companion, also x-rays the relevance of social media in the modern society. Meet some TV professionals who have impacted their spaces and other inspiring stories in sports, entertainment, and lots more. Grab a copy at the vendor near you or NTA stations nationwide. TV Guide, your indispensable companion.
You're still watching Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA. As a prompt for our conversation this morning, which is on ASU strike, bridging academic deficit, here is the background report by Oyeyemi Ajayi.
For months, they were on the table, celebrating and hoping for a headway, a better way to solve salient issues bothering the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU. But both sides were not ready to shift grounds. Hence, the ASU strike went on for 9 months. The ASU chairman has said the strike was due to failure to implement previous agreements between the union and the government in 2009, 2013, 2017 and 2019. The union had demanded the reversal of the brain drain in the education sector by enumeration of academic staff, an exemption from the Integrated Payroll and Personal Information System (IPPIS), pending the approval of the proposed payment system, which is the Universal Transparency and Accountability Solution. Aside this, the payment of arrears of its members' salaries was a contending issue as well. Cheering news came on the 23rd of December 2020 when ASU announced conditional suspension of the strike, citing continuation if the government fails to honor every issue brought to the table. ASU reiterated preparedness to resume work if government makes the environment conducive within the context of the COVID-19 pandemic. On its part, the government disclosed that it had already met 98% of the demands. As the saying goes, when two elephants fight, the grass suffers. 9 months in the life of an individual isn't to be taken with levity. Hence, 9 months in the academic calendar of a student is already a session, which is enough for more productive activities, with some heading for 1 year compulsory National Youth Service. Sadly, these 9 whole months had rendered the students redundant, and to some, it was an opportunity to engage in more productive activities, but outside academic environment. Aside this, the final year students will have their NYSC delayed to next year. Now, many have asked how long and how many times will the academic activities of the innocent students always be altered? Also, is strike action the only way of settlement between the government and the unions? Is there any compensation or crash program for the students, and how ready are schools for resumption? These are some of the questions guests on NTA's Good Morning Nigeria will be answering shortly.
And joining us via Zoom to discuss the topic is Dr. Chris Ngige, Minister of Labor and Employment. Honorable Minister, you're welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
Yeah, good morning.
And we're also expecting to join us via Zoom Professor Biodun Ogunyemi, President, Academic Staff Union of Universities. We're expecting him to join us.
And here in the studio, we have Professor Mohammed Mailuma, former Vice Chancellor, Nasarawa State University. Many thanks for joining us, Professor.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
And also joining us via Zoom is Professor Peter Okebukola, former Executive Secretary, National Universities Commission, and Chairman of Council, National Open University of Nigeria. You're welcome.
Pleasure to be here.
And from our Benin Network Center, we have Professor Lilian Salami, Vice Chancellor, University of Benin. You're welcome, Professor.
Good morning. Thank you.
Okay, now, gentlemen and ladies, let's look at these issues. We're talking about ASU and then bridging the academic deficit. But before we get going or get started fully into that, let's hear from the Honorable Minister. It's been long months of, strike, discussions, negotiations, counter-negotiations, walkouts, and the rest of them. But thank God, at the end of the day, a deal has been reached and a deal has been struck. Let's lay the background. What's the brunt? What are the issues? And what's the deal reached so far so that we can now know where to start from? Honorable Minister.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. You've listed some of the issues, but it's important and nice that we chronicle the events as they came, because in an aspect, one action gave rise to multiple actions, and the demands of ASU continue to expand. First, President of Federal Republic of Nigeria Muhammad Buhari, who is also the chief executive of the Federation by Section 5 of the Constitution of Federal Republic of Nigeria, and is the custodian of everything, the economy, the socio-economic milieu and everything, said that the government is not very, very affluent again. The economy has gone into recession, if you remember, first in 2016, and we're just coming out of it, and oil price have dipped because we are a mono economy. The earnings from oil wasn't there anymore. We were selling oil before at $120 a barrel, 2.5 million barrels a day. If you multiply it, you see what the earnings came to. But now, in 2016, we had our first major shock. Oil sold for $30 a barrel. Militancy in the Niger Delta brought down quantum of production from 2.2 million barrels a day to at one time 700,000, not even up to 1 million. So you have them to look inwards to plug the leakages, make sure that you cut your coat according to your cloth and the rest of it. So in a broadcast to National Assembly members on presentation of the budget in 2019, October, he did say that all federal workers, all people being paid from the coffers of the federal government should go on the integrated payment system, IPS. It's a device by which everybody is tracked through your BVN and your bank account. You also have to be registered on that platform before you can receive any money. All federal workers complied. Well, at least 90% of them were got on track and captured. And it eliminated the ghost workers. From there, people who were not paying taxes, commensurate taxes were also deciphered, because the IP's platform made sure your taxes are deducted at source. Again, people who took allowances that are not good for them were also seen, and those allowances were harmonized with what they actually are supposed to get. This was the situation when in February, January, ASU made a case. They made a case that 2019 that they didn't want to go on IPs. Of course, the federal government said no, and they had problem with the Ministry of Finance and the Accountant General's office. That's our Treasurer, Finance Ministry, and the cashier, which is Accountant General, the payment opening. Thereafter, a strike was declared because by February, the system shut out everybody that was not on the platform in terms of receiving payments. Mark you that all over the world, no employee dictates the employer how he's going to be paid. All over, including Nigeria here, even in the private sector, nobody who is under unemployment will say, you must pay me in check, you must pay me by electronic transfer, or you must pay me cash. The important thing is that you receive your money as a window. So this was the thing that triggered all this strike. And by the time ASU now made their demand for the strike, they put up a 9-point demand, including a revitalization fund for the universities, which they had signed in 2009, 2013. In 2013, they agreed that it's going to be 1.3 trillion payable in 6 years. year was 220 billion. They also included the payment of the arrears of payment of people in the Federal University of Technology, Akure. They included also proliferation of state universities. The federal government should come out with a very decisive act to stem the proliferation. They came out with a demand on the Umpenko, which was their pension fund administrator organ, that the federal government should revitalize it and extend the life of that company. That company, by the way, was facilitated for the university unions as a pension fund administrator by the federal government through PENCOM. So the demands were many, of course, including that they be exempted from IPs. So when they came to the employers, the direct employers, Ministry of Education, they didn't make any headway. And when they didn't make any headway, by the Trade Dispute Act, the minister is authorized, Minister of Labor and Employment is authorized to either appoint a tribunal to arbitrate for them, or appoint an arbitrator, or apprehend by himself and arbitrate. So we did the latter because that was.
Well, it seems we're having some hitches with the connection there with the Honorable Minister, Labor and Employment. Let's come into the studio here and then talk with Professor Mohamed Numa, former Vice Chancellor at Nasarawa University. Sir, from what the Honorable Minister is saying, there are lots of issues that have been on the table for them, and they were able to trash it. Now the strike is over, and it seems we are going to go to the classroom any moment from the 18th, if possible. That's what the instruction says, but that one is also subject to review. I wish Professor Biodun Ogunyemi will be around to shed more light on the, on the deal struck. But all the same, you should be in the know of this. What's the deal that has been struck with the government, so that our viewers will know, and then see how far the government has gone in trying to meet the demands, and how far or how magnanimous or how understanding the ASU has been in this issue.
Yeah, there are maybe in summary you can say that there are 4 central issues, and the first leg is the issue of funding, and the government has agreed to make some money available at intervals that they're up to the tune of about 40 billion. And they are also...
When you say intervals, what do you mean intervals here?
Yeah, I don't have the details,
right,
because I was not part of the negotiation, and I don't know, but I mean, they've agreed to pay at different times. That at so time they will make available this sum of money, at so time they will make available this sum of money, until finally they're able to make the total demand of ASU. They've also agreed that they are going to test the UTAS, that is the alternative ASU had provided for IPs, that but you see that is also an unnecessary thing as far as I'm concerned, because you try to solve a problem where there is a problem, not to create another problem. If payments platform that the universities are using are matters that nobody has said that there is a problem with it, why are you changing it? So that is also, and that is why some of the things are actually unnecessarily created by government to bring these distortions in the system. Ordinarily, if the university is running, like the minister was saying, you also realize that the employers of the university is not Ministry of Education or at the federal level. It is the councils of this university that are the employers. That's what the law provides. So it is not Ministry of Education, and they should, why ASU is dealing with the government at the federal level is to make it have some level of central standardization, so that at the end of it, you have some level of regulation that the NUC can ensure that there is standards within these universities. But in matters of employment and issues of staff, it is the council of this university that should tackle it. So also, government had agreed that all the backlog of the salaries they have not paid, that they are going to pay before the end of January. And again, that was again a matter that was unnecessary, to say that you are holding somebody's salary for months. Because ordinarily, I want to say that we are talking about ASU strike within the last 9 months, but it is a common knowledge that it is not ASU strike that actually made people to stay at home. The ASU strike coincided with the issue of COVID-19 pandemic, and most of these institutions, in fact, including government workers, particularly those level 12 and below, were not asked to go to work for all these 9 months. So you find out that it is not about ASU strike that people were not going to work. But people, because the strike also coincided, and again, the government was not even talking to ASU for almost 7 months because of a pandemic. So you find out that if they had maybe talked about it and within the period, it wouldn't have reached the level of the 9 months that we're talking about the strike itself. So I believe, like I've said, it is funding. It's about infrastructure, which is also connected with funding. It is about whether or not those that had their salaries withheld should be paid. It is also about the payment platform. So, and government had some agreements on all these issues.
Professor Mohammed, I would like to, they say when two elephants in the intro, we said when they fight, the grass suffers. In this case, students suffer. In as much as ASU is trying to get what it thinks it deserves, has it ever in any way put the consideration of these students on the table?
Yes, always. In fact, the number one primary consideration of ASU is the students. And why I say so is that it is, if you look at since the beginning of, maybe take it from 1978, the major issue that they don't want situation where we do not have manpower that can give the desired level of education to the students. They also are talking about the available infrastructure, that whatever it is, that there should be minimum standard, that these students should be trained in a manner that they can be useful to the society and to themselves. They are also always talking about the welfare of the students, where they stay, where they learn, that it is also, the environment is also very important to ASU. So you find out that from the very beginning, if ASU were talking about just the welfare of staff, it would have been easier for the government to handle. Because as it is today, you see a professor at the peak earns not up to 450,000. But there are people working in NPC. Like I used to say, I left a job for 590,000 in 1992 to go and start collecting 570 naira in the university. So, and my students that I have graduated first year, the first employment, they were paid 1 million naira. And it is not as if I didn't have the opportunity to also get that kind of employment. So you find out that it is not what ASU is talking about is not really the individual lecturers, but it is a system. And that is all about what we are able to produce. And that is the issue. So it is the concern for the students. Let them have education that is of standard, that is comparable anywhere in the world. That is a central issue for us.
Was the student union part of the negotiation?
You see, the negotiation table is not made by ASU.
Okay.
It is the government that decides. ASU just bring its team. So if government wants the students to be part of the team, government will invite students to be there and they will be listening to. But you realize that students are not in the level to discuss some of the things that ASU is talking about, because they don't know what is required to produce that level of capacity that is required for a graduate. They are novice in the matter, if you want to. So it may be unnecessary to invite them to a table to discuss what they know nothing about.
Okay, thank you, Professor Mohammed. It seems we are able to reconnect with the Honorable Minister of Labour and Employment, Dr. Chris Ngige. Honorable Minister, you were talking earlier on, but unfortunately we got your break. We want you to summarily, in sum, try to, shed more light on this deal, because that is where the solution is, and that is where the heartwarming message is, and that is why the students are happy about. Shed more light on the deal. Let's know what the deal, encompasses, so that we can see how magnanimous the government is.
I'm very happy that Professor Mohammed did some of these his assertions, but unfortunately, most of those assertions are not correct. Are not. As a matter of fact, it's the Minister of Education that should be doing this program with you, because he's the direct employer of the university staff via the governing council. Yes, the governing council, there's an act, they are now in charge of the university, but do they have the money to pay? They are supposed to generate the money to pay. If they were paying, government will have no business. The federal government and the treasury, Ministry of Finance, will have no business with this discussion. Yeah, but ASU is drawing money from the national till. They are not generating their money. The governing council is not generating their money to pay. Because he who pays the piper dictates the tune. And the federal government that is paying is saying that we are bleeding. We are bleeding. We have lost blood, a lot of financial blood. Hemorrhage is coming in. I give you a typical example. The former system by which university staff were paid is what we call GIFMIX. The GIFMIX platform, in that platform, you send the money to the university, and the university will then, through the bursar's office and the vice chancellors and the staff members, they will submit their details, collect their money from the university. And what was proposed was that the leftovers will be recycled to the next round of payment. But no money was coming back there. And it will surprise you to know that in 3 years, the Joint Tax Board, which is aggregation of all the tax boards of states, gave the federal government a bill of 880 billion as underpayment, under deductions in payee tax, because payee tax is supposed to be domiciliary, based on domicility. If you're a staff of federal university in Anambra State government will take your payee. If you're in Lagos State government takes their payee. If you're in Port Harcourt, Rivers State government take your payee. So they aggregated the short payments made on deduction on that GIFMIX platform, and it came to 880 billion for all the federal universities, and the federal government had to pay. Yes. So these are the things. There also the issue of ghost workers, people who are not working but are taking the money. So GIFMIX platform was not detecting; instead it was aiding for fictitious people to collect money. There was also the issue of lecturers who teach in 3 federal universities, not to talk about private universities. And GIFMIX platform was paying them, because the monies go to the university and the university bursars administer those funds. But IPs will not pay you twice. To pay you twice, you must be an adjunct lecturer, and when you are an adjunct lecturer, he pays you, I think, about 70% in your second place. That is it. So you can see that this was necessary. I'm not holding brief for education, but I've been part of government. I will understand
Honorable Minister,
whatever is
Honorable Minister, I'm specifically, Honorable Minister, if you can hear me, I'm specifically asking that question because Nigerians would want to know what the government was able to give ASU against what the ASU asked for, to such an extent that now a deal has been struck and the students are happy, parents are happy, guardians are happy, the lecturers are happy, everybody's happy. If not for the COVID-19, we would say that maybe in the first week of January, students or other lectures will begin in the university, and that's heartwarming news. But what really prompted that? Let's have it in a nutshell. You are part of the negotiation, more or less like the head of the negotiation team from the government side.
We have negotiated, we have resolved a lot of the issues. Negotiation is give and take. As you said, we don't want our people to go on this platform because it's cutting off a lot of allowances that have been approved for us. We have our own solution now called UTAS, University Transparency Accountability Solution Portal. Government said we believe in homegrown things. If you look at the executive orders of Mr. President on local content, executive order 35, we want homegrown things. So we encourage that. I wrote to the Minister of Digital Economy, and that's Communication and Digital Economy, and the predecessor they need that subjected UTAS to integrity test. The test is still going on. We fashioned out a hybrid system with NIMSI and the Office of Accountant General with a new portal to capture people who are not on IPs. We'll capture them on that hybrid portal and keep on paying them so that there will be some kind of stability in the system. It is not true, as Professor Manuma was saying, that ASU salary was just seized. No. If you go on strike, Section 43 of the Trade Dispute Act says you have a right to go on strike. But if you go on strike, your employer can apply what is called no work, no pay. This is done to protect the industry or to protect that enterprise so that the money there can be used to pay actual persons that are brought in maybe to keep this the industry afloat. If you also go on strike, it is the job of your union to pay you some remuneration for the period you're on strike. That is the law all over the world. And that is why when people go on strike overseas, the strike doesn't last more than 2 weeks. Because the union is supposed to be paying them money to keep them afloat for the period they are away from work. It's Section 43 of the Trade Dispute Act. I didn't make the law. It's not Buhari's law. It's not Ngige's law. It's a law of Parliament, National Assembly of Federal Republic of Nigeria. The ILO principles at work also in convention, I think 188 or so, gives workers right to go on strike. But for the period you're also on strike, especially if you're on essential service, your employer can employ persons to keep the industry afloat. If it is hospitals, the employer will employ new doctors and nurses so that lives will be saved. So this is the principle at work. So nobody woke up and took ASU's money. ASU went on warning strike on 9th and later on declared full strike on the 23rd. The 9th strike, there was no warning. The law says you give 21 days notice.
Honorable Minister.
Nobody just, but even on that, when COVID came, like the professor was saying, we discovered that people were at home, workers were at home and were receiving salary. I went to Mr. President and got a special dispensation to waive off that area of this is an unconventional ground where ASU, because there's a force majeure, so to say. And President agreed. So ASU was paid their February salary. They worked for February. They were paid for March, April, May, and then June. And we told them now to get back to work and do virtual teaching, which was being done all over the world. They refused. We said, come for virtual negotiation. They also refused. So, Professor, what you are saying is not completely true. Yes, there was COVID, but people were teaching during COVID. They were doing virtual teaching. ASU members withdrew from virtual teaching.
Honorable Minister, I'm sure Professor Mohammed will respond to what you're saying, but you were talking about the UTAS and the integrity test, which is still ongoing by NIDA, and you also said that they do not have, ASU does not have the money to procure the necessary hardware for the implementation. You also added that there's no provision for the procurement of UTAS software in the budget. Is that one of the gray areas that sort of prolonged the negotiation?
We are making progress. ASU is making progress with NIDA, the technological agency handling the software. They are in the last stage, I think stage 3. I'm not a computer scientist, but the report they gave me, both of them, is that they are stage 3. There is the issue of also of the hardware. The hardware, according to ASU, they have reached an agreement with NUC. It will be domiciled in NUC. I don't know how the hardware will be procured. Maybe NUC and the Ministry of Education and ASU have an arrangement on that. I'm a conciliator. I'm not part of that particular one, but I'm interested in monitoring all these things so that there will be no strike anymore based on UTAS usage and non-UTAS usage. As a matter of fact, whatever they are doing through UTAS must have a handshake with IPs. You must have a handshake. Just because BVN is involved, because biometrics is involved, they now went to the Nigerian Identity Management Commission, the people doing identity card, who have collected everybody's biometric, who knows everybody in Nigeria, and they are now first done a handshake with them, and then the next handshake is with IPs, and I think the problem will be solved. We are for local content. I'm a believer in local content. I believe in homegrown things. So any support they need to make this thing work, government is ready to give it to them. Especially when it will make for safeguard of foreign exchange, because IPs, according to them, is a foreign brokered platform, and some contributions are made in dollars. We don't have dollars anymore. So that one is there. Then the issue of revitalization, like the professor said, yes, we have staggered it based on the fact that there is no money. That negotiation was done, like I said before, in 2013, when oil was selling at $130 a barrel, 2.5 million barrels a day. It is not like that today. So we have agreed with ASU. There is a special committee that has been put in place to look for alternative sources of funds.
We've lost the minister once again, but we'll get back to him whenever, because there are some areas we really want him to shed more light on that. But let's get down to Benin and meet Professor Lilian Salami, the Vice Chancellor, University of Benin. Prof, you've had the twos and fronts, the going forth and backwards of this argument so far. But I want you to look at this issue from the point of view of students. This very topic this morning is ASU bridging the academic deficit. And the students are at the center of this. Against the background of the deal being signed by the government and ASU and the expected resumption of academic activities in maybe the second week or third week of January, all things being equal, how do you swallow this deal against the background or vis-a-vis the backlog of academic activities that was left on the tables of lecturers and researchers in the past 9 months?
Thank you very much. Of course, the news came and we all applauded, but for the universities, it's just opened another phase of problems. And I'll categorize that into 3 major areas. One is the academic calendar that has been bastardized as a result of the lockdown and ASU strike. Second is the quality and time. Third, we're looking at COVID. What do we do with the non-medical protocol? So let me take the first one. For a lot of course, there is no one-size-fits-all here. Most universities will have to deal with the level at which they actually either ASU or COVID truncated the process. For University of Benin, we're lucky and yet not lucky because we were actually the game village for the 2019 national games. And so we shut down our university earlier than most. So in earnest, we had conducted proper teaching for just a few weeks. So what that then means is that we need to complete that first session and then also try as much as possible to compress the second session so that we can have a full session for 2021, even though we are stepping into 2021 by God's grace. So we have that issue too. Now, if you compress and then you put pressure on the lecturers who are on ground, nothing has changed in terms of the quality. So I must say our students are still going to get quality teaching, but because of the time frame, the pressure will be added on lecturers. So we'll have to monitor, we'll have to plead so that these students will have quality teaching, quality exposure, and then the lecturers are committed to teaching. Now that quickly brings me to the point of, if teaching must be effective, learning must be effective, we must be able to have a teacher ratio that must be held. Yes, we are not saying it can't be 100%, but what we are saying is that what we have right now is a far cry from effective teaching and learning. And so compounded by the time that we will have to constrain now because of the ASU strike and then of course the COVID, will probably create a big problem. And that is why, from my own angle, I have always said that we need more lecturers, and that must be something that must be taken on the burner as a priority. You cannot kill the willing horse. And so those that are there, yes, we are going to plead with them, we are going to monitor so that the delivery is still good, the quality, we can still ascertain that our students will come out from the other, as graduates that are marketable, not only in Nigeria but globally. So we need to assist by bringing in more hands, teaching, lecturing jobs. And then I also talked about, the COVID, the non-medical protocol. Now that is going to create a big issue to the university. Most of the public funded universities are overpopulated, as it were, and now we are just processing another group of students to join the old students. So in most cases, we have two sets of new students coming in that must be taught. Now we need physical distancing, we need social distancing, the facilities have not been upgraded, we still have what we have, and so it's posing a major problem. So even if you stagger resumption for these students, now already you have bastardized calendar. We have to work around that to be sure that we don't lose 2019, 2020 totally. And so we have that issue to deal with, to contend with. So even if you stagger it, now at what point are you going to now harmonize? It becomes a problem. So like I jokingly say to a lot of people, this is not the time to be a vice chancellor, because truly we have a lot on our hands. And so we must begin to look at different ways of getting to the students. The Honorable Minister talked about e-learning, the platform for e-learning for the students, for the lecturers. Now we all know that a lot of us are not quite there yet. So we must look for unconventional means, which of course my university, for instance, we're beginning to look at other means of getting to our students so that we can try as much as possible to keep quality, to still be efficient, to still be effective, so that our students are not always on the losing side. Like my colleague there said that when two elephants fight, it is the grass that suffers. So we are trying as much as possible to protect our students so that at the end of the day, they get, their money worth. So that is where we are.
I agree with you that this is just not the right time to be a Vice Chancellor in Nigeria with all the challenges. I would now like to join Professor Peter Okebukola, former Executive Secretary, National Universities Commission and Chairman of Council, National Open University of Nigeria. The suspension of the strike brought smiles to the faces of students across the country, but as heartwarming as the news is, ASU says the strike might continue if the federal government reneges on its agreement. And should this be give a sense of hope to our students or a sense of hopelessness?
Thank you very much. First, what I'll say is we have a sense of hope, not hopelessness. I'd like to congratulate the Honorable Minister of Labor and Employment for the efforts that have gone into solving this challenge that we've had over the last several months. I also like to appreciate ASU for getting us to this midpoint. So it's a win-win situation for all the parties. I'd like the Honorable Minister of Labor and Employment to note that he has been at the front end of the discussion operation, but at the back end, my minister, Malam Adamu, at the back end, he has been circling, dealing with all these issues, discussing with the parties, and also my executive secretary, that's the executive secretary, NUC, also Abubakar Adamu Rashid. They have been at the back end doing quite a lot of things. Thankfully, thank you, sir. Thankfully, we are where we are today. It's not a hopeless situation. I want to assure Nigerians that the government will strive to meet its own side of the obligations as agreed at the conclusion of the recent meeting. So we are more or less, by what I've said, more or less good to go with academic activities. Please note that our discussion for today is centered around bridging academic deficits. So it's a sign of hope that efforts will be made at bridging academic deficits. So what are the options that are available? I see 4 options. Option number 1 is a recalibration of the academic calendar. When you're using GPS, you can't miss your road. I mean, you have some kind of recalibration to set your path. The National Universities Commission, the regulator, the standard setting organization has been very clear in a release not too long ago by the ES that you've got to meet the minimum standards for delivery, minimum contact hours. What are these? First, you're going to have a 15-week semester. You have to have maybe 2 weeks towards the end of it for exams. And then the contact hours for lectures